Ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Civic Space TV, friends of the Inter-University Debate Show, I take this opportunity to welcome you to this particular edition. My name is Kidega Moses, and I shall be the moderator for the Inter-University Debate Competition that is an in-house preparation for Nkumba University. If you're tuning and joining us for the first time, please feel free to put your comments in the comment section, but also feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the Civic Space YouTube channel so that you can get weekly updates and weekly notifications of our shows that run from Monday to Sunday. Otherwise, today's conversation, I am joined by a team of young panelists. I must say all of them are lawyers, and they come all the way from Nkumba University, and they shall be debating on a very pertinent topic for today. It's now my singular opportunity to introduce the panelists that we have here with us today. And I will start by introducing Nalokake Rachel Ruth. Ruth is a law student at Nkumba University, and she's a third-year law student. Ruth, you're welcome. Nkozi.
Thank you, but I'm not a law student. I'm a journalist.
Okay. Okay, sorry, there was a small mistake. I understand this is Nkozi University, not Nkumba. You know, the two names Nkozi and Nkumba are somehow interrelated, so I could have made that mistake, but this is Nkozi University. And Ruth, you are saying that you are a student of journalism.
And Ruth, saying that you are a journalism.
Student, in my second year.
Oh, you're a second-year student of journalism. Yes, thank you very much for that correction. I think I over-assumed that all of you are lawyers. My sincere apologies. Let me go ahead to introduce Comrade Namuyaba Arthur. Arthur is a third-year law student at Nkozi University, and Arthur joins us today as a panelist. Arthur, you're welcome. Okay, Arthur is, I think, facing some technical challenges. Let me go ahead to introduce Comrade Ronald Natuhuera. Ronald is equally a third-year law student at Nkozi University, and he joins us today as a panelist for this conversation. Ronald, you're welcome, and many thanks for joining us. Ronald, many thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, moderator.
All right. Yes, thank you very much, Ronald. We shall wait for the other panelists.
Please, it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Yes, am I audible now?
Yes, Ronald, you're perfect. You're well and good. Okay, as I wait for Comrade Arthur to rejoin us and our fourth panelist, allow me to say this. To our viewers and everyone who is listening to us, this is a continuation of the series of the Inter-University Debate. Last week, we hosted the Uganda Christian University, and we had a very fruitful conversation with them. And this week, we are hosting Nkozi University for their internal debate preparation. The topic that we had last week is the same topic that we shall be discussing this particular week, and which is the future of every nation belongs to its young people, and what does Uganda have in stock for the young people politically, socially, and economically. Last week, the students of Uganda Christian University gave us a very fruitful debate, and I'm very optimistic that our comrades from Nkozi shall equally do us justice in terms of unpacking this conversation. My colleagues, Comrade Ronald and Comrade Rachel, as we wait for the rest of our colleagues to join us, let me just tell you this, that in 1933, after the First World War, the students of Oxford University Debate Union sat down, debated, and agreed that under no circumstances shall they ever lift a finger to fight for their country or to fight for their king. And guess what? Adolf Hitler was listening. Adolf Hitler eventually said that democracies are weak and people are naturally timid, and therefore he thought that he could press and suppress people and they could not retaliate. I can assure you that the same students of Oxford Debate Union that debated not to fight were the same students who participated in the 1940 World War, only 7 years later. So I hope that today, the debate students of Nkozi University, whatever we discuss here and agree upon as young people, we shall not go against our word. That was really on a lighter note, but I welcome you to this conversation. And let me come straight to you, Arthur. Arthur, you had a technical challenge, but I'm glad that you're back and you're here with us. And I want to pose to you the first question. Arthur, last year, there was a report by the World Bank. This particular report was an economical report, but in it was a social aspect, which said that, can Uganda leverage on its demographic transition? We know by now that Uganda's demographic population is one that is tilted towards young people. About 78% of the country's population is youthful. But the question still lies and lingers in our heads that can Uganda, do we have the capacity as a country to harness or leverage on the numbers of young people to cause political change, to cause economical change, and to cause social transformation in our country? Is our country ready to harness our potential as young people? Over to you, Arthur, as you set us off in this conversation.
Yes, good afternoon to you all. My name is Semuyaba Arthur, the President, Uganda Matters University Law Society, and I'm in my third year. In regards to the said question, I do believe that what we have here in Uganda can really help us to really transit from a perspective that is low. I do think that we see that from the history of Uganda, our government has tried to put up various reforms that have helped us to move economically, politically, and socially. Let me take you back to our history. We see that in the 1988, we see that our government, the governments that we have currently right now try to put up various reforms which encompassed political reforms, economical reforms, and social reforms. And if we are to see that, and if we are to see from this history, we see that government came up with a body which was called the Constitutional Assembly, that came up with various reforms, and this body was called the Constitutional Assembly. And we see that it tried to put up various, and we see that the rule of the law was here to aid us to see whether we can have the best laws rather than best leaders, because we cannot rely our future on that. The rule of law that was initiated by our government has really helped us to make us grow economically and socially. So basing on that report, I do think that Uganda has been able to integrate from a low status of an economic background. We see that basing on the report that was made in 2016, we see that 2016 this report was made by the Uganda National Convention that talked about various economic sectors that the government has put up, and these sectors have helped us to grow economically. We see that the government right now has put up various institutions. For example, various projects. For example, the Myoga, that has helped the youth to be all laws that help the youth be able to engage in various activities that government engages in. If at all we are to look at the constitution that was made by the current regime, we see that this constitution has been there to assist these youth in a way that the youth can be able to be empowered. We see that Article 32 that talks about the minority rights or the affirmative action of minority rights, we see that where marginalized groups have been suppressed, this law is there to protect them. And where we see that the youth currently, yes, they have been marginalized, but due to the presence of this law, these people have been helped out. With that, I end my question.
Yes, Arthur, thank you very much. That has been quite elaborate. Rachel, let me come to you. You've had Arthur's submission. Arthur, and I understand he speaks more about the legal regime, about the legal framework, and I will understand because he's a lawyer. But you're a journalist, and do you concur that the government has put in place the necessary legal framework to ensure that it taps into the potential of young people so that we can be able to meaningfully contribute towards the socio-economic transformation of this country? And maybe you can give us a different perspective, because Arthur's perspective is more towards the legal framework, what government has put in place in terms of the laws and policies that protect the rights of the minorities under which the youth fall. Because anyway, personally, I hold a different opinion about whether the youth are a minority or not, because in terms of numbers, I've just mentioned to you, we contribute about 78% of the country's population. So why are we still referring to ourselves as a minority group? And yet our population seems to suggest something else. So I personally hold a different opinion about our status, whether we are a minority or a majority. But well, I leave that for you, the panelists, and let me come to you, Rachel. Do you hold the same opinion with Comrade Arthur that the government has put in place the right legal framework, and therefore the government is prepared or has the capacity to harness from the demographic transition of this country, or to harness from the youth population in terms of energy, in terms of the productivity, in terms of the creativity, in terms of this human resource of young people? Do you think our country is prepared enough? Over to you, Rachel.
Okay, thank you so much. This is my opinion. So, according to me, the government has, yes, provided these provisions, but according to the statistics of Uganda Bureau of according to Uganda Bureau of Statistics, it shows that according to the statistics that was taken in 2013, it shows that the youth are the majority. And yes, they are the majority, and government has put the different perspectives. It has put the different things in order to see that the youth are effective, or to see that the youth grow the country politically, economically, and socially. But according to me, yes, they have put it, but we shouldn't put, according to the topic that we have, that the future of every nation belongs to the youth. What has Uganda put in store for us? It has the recent elections, the 2021 elections. We see that a big number of youth is represented. In January, the general elections were ended, and President Museveni announced as the new president of the country. The policies were just put there and many representatives, but I would say yes, they are working, but what standard of the country in the same report that Comrade Arthur has given. That same report shows that the youth one of the youth came out, and she said that the president can stand alone. Like, she was requesting that we as the youth, we are requesting that the president should stand alone with no person going against him. And this wasn't the fact. it wasn't the fact because she was speaking on a personal basis. And then we come out and we say that the provisions have been put there politically, but no one, they have been put there, there have been different representatives under the youth, but no youth came against her when she said it. No youth came against her, and you realize that the representation is there, but it is not any effective. So I'm saying the policies are there, but we should gauge and look for better or more policies where we can engage the other generation, the generation of the elderly, to help out the youth, since they have like passed through this before, to help out the youth and see how they can actually handle it. In my opinion, it is not to 100. It is to a limited percentage that it is working, and to that limited percentage, according to the youth that we have, 77% of the youth, 78% of the youth that we have, that are the majority, that the work that we see, the work that is produced, it is limited to the youth that are there, the youth that represent us. No one came against the lady that was saying, us as the youth, she said, but no one came to stand against her and say that it is against the rules or it is not in order. And then so that brings me, that shows that this thing is like, it is not really effective. Yes, it is. I'm not saying it's not effective. Yes, it is to a smaller extent. Yeah, that is what I can say.
Yes, thank you, Comrade Rachel. I must say you've been very passionate with your submission. But Rachel, just before you leave, let me just tell you something that I don't think that the youth should be looking for an opportunity to go against one another. So when you say that no one came against this girl, I would rather suggest that maybe you say no one held a different opinion contrary to what this lady or this young lady was proposing. But for you to suggest that someone should have gone against her is rather a very tough term to use. But well and good. Thank you for your submission. Let me come to you, Ronald. Ronald, you joined us slightly late because of your network, but Comrade Arthur is a law student, and so are you. But Comrade Arthur made a very strong argument earlier on and said that government has put in place the necessary legal regimes. You know, we have the affirmative action, we have the youth members of parliament, we have all these very good affirmative action laws and things like that. But then Rachel holds a different opinion. She says that it isn't only about having these affirmative action positions or slots, but rather it's about the effectiveness of this leadership, or the effectiveness of these positions towards eventually transforming governance and influencing the politics of the day. What is your own opinion? Do you think that our country is prepared enough to harness the demographic advantage that it has in terms of the creativity that comes with young people, the productivity that comes with young people, the energy that comes with young people? Are we ready as a country? Let's hear your opinion, Comrade Ronald.
Yes, good afternoon once again. I'm sorry I had a technical glitch on my side, but I concur with the opinions of Arthur, like you just put them before, in that our country here in Uganda has done, I think Uganda has done enough through the establishment of the necessary ministries, like the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. You observe that this Ministry of Gender and Labor and Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development has established a national youth policy. And this national youth policy has established a lot of programs, such as the Uganda's Youth Livelihood Program, the Youth Livelihood Fund, and these funds or programs help the youth in one way or the other. Now, for instance, take a look at the agriculture sector. The youth that are engaging in agriculture here in Uganda right now, the Youth Livelihood Fund, they are given soft loans so that they can be able to start their beekeeping. Mention all of them, and is bringing one or is introducing one sort of side to help a blend of these things. The nuts program, the yoga program. So we shouldn't take one side that the government is not doing much, like Rachel said, but the government is bringing a blend of programs, a variety of programs, and the demographic part of it is that we are trying the youth, like Rachel said, she considered and said that, yeah, yes, the youth are the majority and have to be put in consideration. You remember well that occupied 78% here in Uganda. This number, of course, has been progressive. You may find that the demographics right now, the population now is maybe 80% of the youth here in Uganda, people falling within the age brackets of 18 to 35. So I think the government has done much and is trying as much as possible to consider the youth in terms of social, political, and economic development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ronald. You seem to agree with what Comrade Arthur said earlier on. And Arthur, I want to come to you straight away. You've heard what our comrade has said. Ronald seems to suggest that government, through the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, has put in place so many of these very good youth programs, okay? The Emyoga Fund, the Youth Livelihood Program, and all these things. But I'll tell you, Arthur, that one time, Roosevelt, who was USA president, said that we cannot continuously prepare the future for the youth, but we should build the youth for the future. Do you think that this government approach of giving handouts, of giving things like the Youth Livelihood Program, do you think it is preparing young people for the future, or it is preparing the future for the young people? Because those are two different things. We must deliberately begin to prepare young people for the future and not the other way around. So what analysis do you make of what Comrade Ronald just put across? He gave us so many examples, okay? Youth Livelihood Program and all those things. What is your comment about these programs and how they relate with building the youth capacity for the future?
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, before I proceed, I would wish to help my colleague. She's called Sylvia. She has not yet been added to the panelists, and she's part of the Uganda Matters panel. So, in regards to the question, in regards to the above question, yes, basing on the examples that my comrade has given about how the youth have been helped by giving them handouts. These handouts are not just given aimlessly. We do find that these handouts have been given out to help the youth prepare for the future. And I do find that these handouts or this money that has been given out is aimed to work as loans that are used as investments. And I do think that what most Ugandans may not know is that these loans are there to help the youth, not just to these handouts have been given to the youth, not just to be used for individual interests, but they have been used for economic interests, which are here to help the common good. I'll refer you to the book of Yuval Harari Noah. In his book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he once said that most injustices or most prejudices in the contemporary world refer to a large scale of structural biasness rather than individual prejudices or biasnesses. So we do find that most people are biased with this program, the Myoga, because they do not know what it has come in to help. And we do find that the government, yes, it has tried to empower the youth in such a way whereby they are giving them loans that will help them to carry out meaningful businesses here in Uganda. And this serves as a lesson to the future generation that when they get when they get tools of leadership, they have to be able to help out the common man. And we do find that by these programs that have been put up by government, the youth have been empowered economically, whereby they are able to create their own jobs and they are able to employ others. We see that the report that was made in 2014 by the Uganda Convention, it said that in a year we have 700,000 jobs job seekers, and only 75,000 jobs have been created for the youth. And what has government done? Government has tried to give these funds to the youth so that they can be able to help themselves carry out meaningful businesses and also help out their fellow youth. Because if a youth is given money to invest in his business, he is able to expand it, and when he is able to expand it, he's able to employ other youth, and by this we are able to fight unemployment here in Uganda. And we see that from the demographic, we see that 78% of the youth, 78 of the population are youth, and where we leave them unemployed, we shall lead to various crimes that will affect the nation. So by doing that, we are able to make the youth engageful rather than being passive individuals in a country. By that, we are able to integrate from an economy that is low to an economy that is better. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Arthur. That has been quite elaborate. I can see clearly that our good friend Namudu Sylvia has joined us. Namudu, many thanks for joining us. I understand you had technical challenges, but by the grace of the Most High, you have finally joined us. Could you please turn on your video and audio and just say hello to us? Then I'll have a follow-up question for you just in a minute. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Can we see your face?
Oh, I've turned on the video.
Okay. So you can just say hello to us, and then I will allow you take a back seat, and then I'll have a follow-up question for you just in 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sylvia. I'm a law student, year 3, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Sylvia. Sylvia, my name is Kidega Moses, and I'm the moderator for this conversation. And I must say it's a privilege to moderate the Uganda Matters University in Kozi. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And just stay on the line. Let me pick up the thoughts of Comrade Ronald. Ronald, you've heard what our friend Arthur has said, that at times these programs are actually okay, but because we have a biased mindset towards them, they end up failing. And then we end up eventually blaming government for not doing enough. And yet it's our mindset change or our mindset crisis as a people. Let me pose to you a question. We have spoken about the preparation and how prepared government is, or how prepared this country is towards harnessing our potential as young people. And Comrade Arthur mentioned a very pertinent point, and he said the productivity of young people still hangs in the balance, and it hasn't yet been harnessed to its full potential. Let me come to you. Do you think, even before we consider support from other stakeholders, are the young people ready? Are we ready to make a meaningful contribution towards this country's social, economic, and political aspirations and advancements? Let's forget about other stakeholders and speak about our readiness as young people. Are we ready? Do we have the necessary training? Yes, we have gone to school. Majority of us are literate. I will tell you that the level of illiteracy in Uganda has continuously gone very low. Okay, so meaning people are going to school. Our generation has had access to technology, access to education. Majority of us have gone to school and have degrees. But is that a yardstick to say that now, yes, we are ready to offer this country the best that we have? Over to you, Ronald, then Sylvia, just prepare. I'll come to you shortly after that. Ronald, let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you, moderator. Yes, like you just put it, that many of us go through school and we have good degrees, but then after school, like Arthur cited that report where he said that 700,000 youth are ready for the job market. So really, and 75,000 jobs are being created for these 700,000 youth. You can see the disparity there between the two. So what does government need to do? And like you asked me, that are we ready? Yes, we go through school and obtain the necessary skills. You've seen some of our graduates going abroad for, let's say, some doctors. We are taking these doctors, some of which are going to South Africa and the other countries. Yes, and our country is ready enough, but we need empowerment, and our country here in Uganda is trying to do that. In that, this graduate goes through school and he obtains his degree, but does not have a startup capital. You can imagine. Let's be realistic. You've gone through school and you've obtained your degree, and you don't have the startup capital, the necessary startup capital to start a business. So you need that push, and that our government is trying to bridge that, in that people are given up startup capitals through the established programs, in that they are sort of empowerment. They need to empower these youth so that they can get they can start businesses that would benefit them and later pay back these loans. So I see the government is trying much enough to empower our youth. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Comrade Natuhera. Let me just give my opinion on that particular subject matter. You say that, we go to school and then eventually after school, government comes in to offer soft loans so we can open up businesses. Yes. I would then pose to you a question that, why do we go to school to enrich ourselves with the knowledge in a given career? Why should I go through law school or through medical school, and then after I've graduated, I ask government to give me money to open up a shop in my village? Are you saying that there is no room for professionalism? There is no room for careerism? That the only way out now is to get this soft loan from government and go and open a shop in my village? And yet I've gone to law school. What stops me from practicing my law? Does it mean that everyone must do business? I think certainly not. Otherwise, we would all be going to business school. But we all choose to go to our respective professions because we believe that we want to make a contribution to the world in that particular aspect. So I'll give you a second opportunity to fine-tune your argument. Do you still think that even when we have gone to law school and maybe medical school, our alternative still, or our run-back option should be going back to government and getting the Emyoga fund and opening up a shop in my village? Or government must deliberately create an enabling environment where I can thrive as a lawyer, I can thrive as a medical student, I can thrive as whatever I'm doing as an engineer, and I can earn my living through my career and not running to government programs like Emyoga. So just in 2 minutes, if you can fine-tune your argument, please go ahead before I bring in Sylvia.
Yes, to fine-tune my argument is that now if you consider the numbers that go through universities, you've seen that there are a number of students that graduate. And it's not that if you subscribe to the realist school of thought, it's not that all those graduates are going to obtain to obtain the necessary jobs or blessings that they are going to obtain those jobs. But now government tries to create an enabling environment, and these enabling environments are everywhere. Even in the US, if you're following the politics of the US, there is that sort of an enabling environment, in that if you've obtained, let's say, your degree in business administration or let's say agriculture, now such a student or such a graduate that has just graduated needs an empowerment Because you realize that in our settings here in Uganda, for instance, it's not that you're going to go back to your parents. Now, your parent has just paid your tuition or something, and then you go back to your parent and you say that I need money to start up a business, yet you have other siblings that are still going through school. So we need that as a country, and as a country, it's putting up that environment, that enabling environment to help our students. Or it's not that the government has restricted itself to agriculture or to other professions. Those soft loans that are got by different individuals, it's not that they are going to one sort of, let's say they are going to agriculture or they are doing other businesses contrary to what they studied in school. No, if let's say the youth livelihood program or fund gives me money, I can establish a law firm in town. And remember this youth livelihood program has three settings or has three supports. That is institutional support, livelihood support, and skill and development. So it's not that I'm going to do a profession, I'm going to be forced by government through the programs that I established to do a business or to start up a business that I didn't study in school, or for the skills that I didn't study in school. I get those funds, I can, like I said, I can establish a law firm in town. So the government is just putting up an enabling environment, not that it is taking us away from what we studied in school to go and do other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. Fair enough, fair enough. And I guess that is why we are here, so that we can improve our arguments and be better debaters. And I'm glad that when I gave you the opportunity, Ronald, to fine-tune your argument, you took it up and you've made now a better argument, and I'm sure you're more persuasive. And just like the late Desmond Tutu said, that don't raise your voice, but better your argument. I'm glad that you've been able to portray your argument in a much more persuasive manner. And now I will move to Sylvia. Sylvia, you came in slightly late.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Comrade Ronald. Comrade Sylvia, you came in slightly late, but it will be unfair if I don't pose the same question that I asked all our comrade panelists here at the beginning of this talk show. And the question was that, does Uganda as a country have the capacity and the goodwill anyway to harness from its demographic transition? It's common knowledge by now. I mean, UBOS has told us, the frontline media has told us, there are so many media outlets that have told us that Uganda's population is a very young population. And we are continuing to be young by the day. So to you, Comrade Sylvia, do you think Uganda has capacity to harness from this demographic transition, to harness from the productivity that comes with young people, the creativity that comes with young people, the energy that comes with young people? Is this country ready to harness our potential? Anyway, over to you, Sylvia.
The youth in my country are so ready to take up a lot of opportunities. They are very ready. Can you
Sylvia, could you try to get better network? I am completely not getting you. Could you please try to move a little bit and get better network? And then you can join us in a minute or two. Let us shift gears a little bit. And I'll come to you, Arthur, once again. Arthur, you're a lawyer, but above all, you're the president of the law students at Uganda Matters University in Nkozi. So not only are you a student, but you're a leader. I'll pose this to you, Arthur, that personally, I believe in institutions. We have so many institutions that have been set aside, either by act of parliament or by directives. Institutions like the National Youth Council, institutions like the Uganda National Students Association, they are all there. They are meant to really advocate and foster the aspirations or champion the values and beliefs of young people. Do you think these institutions have lived up to their capacity? The National Youth Council, UNSA, to mention but a few, because they have the legal backing, they have the legal framework to support them. Because I will tell you that the National Youth Council is an act of parliament, okay? But do you think they have the capacity to actually offer the best leadership to this country's young population, to lead them towards socio-economic and political transformation of both their personal selves, but also of the country at large? So over to you, Arthur.
Yes, hello. Hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, we can hear you, Arthur. Please proceed.
Yes, I've not gotten the question. Yes, I had a few network issues, so some parts have been skipping, and I've been not able to perceive some of them.
Okay, thank
so
you.
I would
Arthur.
wish to ask for repeats of the question.
Thank you, Arthur. The question was very simple, that you are a lawyer, but you're also the president of the Uganda Matters University in Kozi, law students. And I believe that you have a strong attachment towards strong institutions. You believe that for a country to be governed in the best way, there must be strong institutions. And I will tell you that there are institutions that are put in place to advance or champion the interests of young people. Institutions like the National Youth Council, which is the apex body for youth leadership in the country. We have youth members of parliament. At local government level, we have youth councillors. We have UNSA, which is the Uganda National Students Association. And to mention but a few, my question to you as someone who believes in institutions, I assume, is that do you think these institutions have the backbone or they have the capacity to actually advance or champion the aspirations of young people? Have they lived up to their end of the bargain in terms of meeting up their responsibility? Hope I'm clear now.
Yes, you've been clear. Basing on whether these institutions have been able to live up to their bargain is a question of various arguments. Now, this will encompass legal frameworks and facts on ground. Yes, we know that if there are various institutions like the National Youth Council, there are youth representatives at village levels and different institutions that are there to help the youth. And we do find that these institutions, the mere fact that they do exist, we see that the government has been able to provide a positive go-ahead that they can be able to operate. And we see that there is a law that protects them under the constitution, that different people can be allowed to participate in the making of various institutions, and they can be able to influence various rights. For example, Article 38 that talks about civic rights gives the mandate to these institutions to be able to advocate for various rights that they do feel like they have been infringed on by the government. And we see that this has enabled these institutions to have freedom of speech. And by that, whereby they are able to get that freedom of speech, they are able to lay out their grievances out to the population, and the population is able to hear them out. And we see that government has tried to adjust where they find that they have misconducted themselves to correct themselves. And we see that the government has tried to keep these institutions in place, following that there is a rule of law that the government itself is self-constraining, and where we find that the government has really acknowledged that these institutions can stay in place and they can work together with government. We believe that government has really tried to acknowledge them, and these institutions can be able to do they can be able to play their role very well. We see that Thomas Hobbes at one time stated that people can live together in a society in accordance in accordance and with the agreement that establishes moral and political rules of behavior. We see that there are various laws that have been put up by government that try to govern these institutions. And government has also been self-limiting, whereby it has not infringed so much on the rights of these institutions. And where it has misconducted itself, it has been checked. And we see that Article 20 of the Constitution gives the social contract theory, whereby government has to be self-limiting, whereby it does not overuse its powers over these institutions. Yes, we do find that there are various misgivings that government has at a certain point failed, but we know that as a learning process or a gradual process, we find that government is trying to learn from its mistakes to adopt something that is better. I'll refer you now to the history of Uganda. We see that in the Obote regime, we see that various institutions were denied to carry out their activities here in Uganda. And we see that the more regimes that came up, we see that Amin also tried to suppress various institutions that had come in to fight for human rights, that had come in to fight for the youth. And we see that in those regimes, most people were the old, whereby the cabinet, you could find a cabinet where it is full of people who are above 50 years. But in the current regime, we find that the government has tried to bring in all people of different ages, as long as they are above 18 years and they can be able to participate in politics. Of recent, I think in 2016, we had the age limit bill, whereby it was amended to help the youth come up and try to engage in the political theater. And we see that in these institutions, very many youths have been able to learn about politics. And from there, we have seen various leaders, for example, Katumba, who came into the political theater of recent when he came as president, to stand for president in Uganda. And though he did not win, but at least he inspired various youths to come and also to engage in politics. We see that in the recent elections, various youths, we see that 80% of the youth tried to participate in these elections. And we see that, and since the youth have been able to understand that the purpose of engaging in elections, simply because they have been taught by these institutions. And we do find that these institutions at a certain point, they have been able to achieve their main objective. We see that various NGOs have taught the youth about the current the current politics in Uganda. And we see, for example, the Center for Constitutional Governance. We see that those who engage in activities of this institution, by the time they leave, they are acquitted with the knowledge of what is happening in Uganda. Because at the time of I for one, when I engaged in such engagements, I was able to view the world in a different perspective, from something that's merely social or social engagements of a daily life, to something that encompasses all issues concerning politics and the social development in Uganda. And I believe that these institutions have really done a great job in achieving their main purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Arthur. I must say that was quite elaborate. Rachel, I have a follow-up question for you. But before I come to you, let me give a chance to Comrade Sylvia. Sylvia almost didn't even have the chance to make our opening remarks. Sylvia, let me give you a chance. Your network earlier on was breaking. I hope that now it is better and you can give us your opening remarks.
Yes.
And then I will thereafter pick up Comrade Rachel to respond to what our good friend Arthur has been saying earlier on. So Sylvia, on to you, and you have the floor now.
The youth are young people aged between 12 to 30 years, according to the Uganda National Policy. But as we can see that in the state of affairs of Uganda right now, the youth are not catered for practically We see a lot of theories about the youth. You are seeing the Emyoga projects. We are seeing the National Youth Venture Funds, the National Youth Policy. We are seeing a lot of policies that the government is putting up for the youth. But the question is, are they practical? Are they working? Are they really helping the youth? The problem we have in the country is that most of these policies are theory rather than practical. They are not going down to helping the youth. And when it comes to the economic view of it, we are still suffering with unemployment. We still have a number of young girls, young men who have the energy of building this country, leave their country to go and do jobs in Arab countries, to work as maids, as security guards, sitting on their degrees. We are seeing a lot of corruption. And the problem is that how can the youth help in fighting this corruption? There is no way they are also going to try and fight the corruption, yet the big leaders in the government are supporting corruption, like we can see how our president said on the anti-corruption day. People carry out corruption, that the good thing is that they do corruption in our own country. That means they invest in our country. But how is it helping the natives? The youth are forced to work as slaves in their own country, working for foreign companies. We are seeing development, our GDP going high, but it is not going high specifically because the youth are helped. It is going high because we have a lot of foreign companies that have put their services in the country. That's why the GDP is going high, yet the youth are not helped. Politically, we've seen a lot of, can I call it political tumor? And most so that is too much force on the youth. For example, we've seen the recent elections of 2021. We are seeing the November 2022 massacre of people that died because they were supporting a certain person. And that is the kind of environment our leaders today are trying to create for the youth. They are trying to make youth fear to come up as political leaders. Most of the youth now have a slogan that as long as they sleep, as long as they party, that is the kind of society that the leaders want the youth to be in. A society where leaders do not know about what they want. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Sylvia, proceed.
A kind of society where youth cannot speak up. We've seen how police people are beating journalists because of reporting stories. The stories are initially true. We've seen journalists being arrested. We've seen writers being arrested and not even arrested. They're just, I can't call it arrested. They were just abducted. We are seeing all that sort happening in Uganda. So how can we say that the Uganda of now is preparing the youth for the future? The youth are ready for the future, but the leaders of Uganda now are not ready for the youth. Socially, we are seeing a lot of things happen, shutting down of internet prices being high. How do you expect the youth to market their businesses when the internet prices are high, when they are taxing them so much? In the situation that we are currently in, the COVID period, we've seen many businesses rise up because of the internet. But what has the people in leadership, what have the people in leadership done to help these people, that the youth that are marketing their products online? We are seeing the Emyoga project. Talking of the Emyoga project, I've had some people supporting it, how it's a good government initiative, but the MPs, the member of parliaments, were sent in their different constituencies to find out how the Emyoga project is running. And guess what? Over 1.3% are the ones that were gaining from it. And the few ones that were gaining from it didn't also have the capacity of paying back the money, because the Emyoga money is sort of loan and you must bring it back in a year for zero interest. Then after a year, you put in some 5% interest. But how many youth gained from it? It was first, the youth just made groups that even didn't have any kind of business and got the money, and few of them got the money. The MP's report in different constituencies showed that the youth underground, the market vendors, the border riders did not gain anything. We are still suffering from ignorance, however much they are saying that we have UPE, we have USE, but how can we say we have good schools that are initially creating more illiterates. People are studying under the trees, the teachers are not coming, and we are taking pride in UPE and USE that have spent more than 20 years, but still suffering from such things like teachers don't come to teach. High pregnancies, if we can see the rate of pregnancies among the youth, are those ones that went to UPE and USE. We're not seeing people in private schools dropping out of school. It's still those ones in such situations that still drop out of schools. So I think the Uganda of now, the leaders of now, are not ready for the youth to take on responsibility. And if they are not ready, that means the future of this country is not going to be bright. They must first appreciate the power of the youth. They must appreciate the vigorous nature of the youth, how strong the youth are, so that they can take on this country. Thank you very much. And another thing is that mental health issues are not catered for. Youth these days are, they're suffering from mental illness. There is a lot going on. And we only, I think, have one psychiatric hospital in the country. So there is a lot that the government needs to do, that the people in leadership need to do for the youth, if they really want the future of this country to be bright. Thank you.
Sylvia, thank you very much. You have brought in a whole different perspective into this conversation. Before you came, Comrade Arthur, Comrade Ronald, and Rachel somehow, they seem to speak very highly of this government. But you've brought in a very different analogy, in terms of issues around democracy, issues around human rights, issues around youth participation in politics and governance of their country. And that's a whole different perspective, and I thank you for that. Now, Rachel, I'm forced to delay your coming in. Let me bring in Comrade Ronald. Ronald, you're a lawyer, and I'm sure by now you've covered maybe constitutional law and maybe areas around maybe elections and things like that. You've heard what our friend Sylvia said. Sylvia actually has no kind words for this government. I mean, she calls the government programs impractical. I mean, she says that there is no enough room for youth participation in politics. I mean, there is a lot of human rights violations. I mean, contrary to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I mean, there is a lack of spirit of constitutionalism. As a lawyer, Ronald, this is to you, as a lawyer, what do you have to say about this? Do you think as a country we are moving in the right direction in terms of respect for human rights, in terms of the spirit of constitutionalism, in terms of our democratic path? What do you think? You've heard what our comrade just mentioned earlier on. Let me give you a chance to respond, and then Rachel, be sure that I'll bring you right after Ronald. I have a pending question for you as well. Ronald, that is to you.
Yes, thank you, moderator. Yes, I beg to differ and I will not agree with what Sylvia just said. Maybe considering the spirit of constitutionalism, here in Uganda, we have, I think in the region, we have the best laws, we have the best constitution and the acts of parliament. And like Sylvia said, that we are, as a country, we are facing, we are not having the rule of law in that. First of all, we are under our constitution here in Uganda, we have separate bodies. We have that doctrine of separation of powers. We have an independent parliament where our legislators are elected in, and we have an independent judiciary and the executive. Earlier on, let me start with a point where she hinted on and said that the president said that the lifestyles of these public officers shouldn't be audited. No, I beg to disagree with that. That the president, he himself is entitled to his opinion, like our moderator is entitled to his opinion, and that opinion, just simply by just the president simply stating that opinion, cannot contradict or cannot contravene the constitution, because we have the IGG, the office of the IGG, and there are established roles under that office, and how the IGG is supposed to conduct businesses. And institutional failure, we have not reached that level of having institutional failure in our country, in that the institutions that are established, be it under the national youth policy, be it what, they are being operational, in that they are carrying out business as they are supposed to operate. Be be statutory corporations. These are corporations established under the Acts of Parliament. We've seen COSASI, we've seen these parliamentary commissions auditing these bodies. If something goes west under these corporations, then Parliament, the legislators that we vote into Parliament, have established commissions, and we've seen these people being before these public officers, before those commissions. So there is no way that I would buy that argument that we are having institutional failure here in Uganda, that the institutions are not working to their level best. No, these institutions are working to their level best, and they are being audited and they are inspected. So there is a modus operandi on how these organizations or institutions conduct business. It's not that they just they are working without any direction or stuff, but these institutions are working to their level best, and they have frameworks. These frameworks guide them on how they are supposed to conduct business. So we've not got to that level where we have institutional failure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Ronald. Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Ronald. I must say you're very intentional in terms of saying that government is doing what it has to do. Now, Rachel, let me come to you. The other three panelists are lawyers, and somehow their arguments might be tilted towards a given direction. Let me shift engine a little bit and get your opinion. As a journalist, I'm sure in the course of your education, you've been attempted to maybe cover some stories or to write some articles, or you've read, from media and things like that. Do you think what our friend Sylvia said earlier on about the respect for human rights and about the democratic space and about the civil space, the civil rights, do you think there is still so much that needs to be done for us to get our country onto a path where youth participate fairly and compete fairly for all these spaces, democratically, politically, socially, and economically? Yes, Rachel.
Okay, thank you so much. So according to me, politically, I would first say that the youth, like the government has, it was there before, but it has worked on it. It has worked on it according to the status quo of the recent elections, where many youth were given opportunity to go in for these elections. The presidential age for a person who was capable to stand up for presidency, the age was reduced according to the different articles that were written by, in the perspective of journalism, the different articles that were written by the Solomon Seranja of NBS. It was the age, people of different age groups, especially the youth, were given an opportunity to the extent that it was put at 18. So I do not agree with that. It was there before, but then government has worked upon it. It is doing its best, as I said. But yes, it is doing it, but what is the effectiveness of what it is doing? Yes, the youth were allowed to get into the to go into the elections, as we saw the different youth participants that came up, Katumba, and then Bobby Wine, as we all saw them coming to get and try this opportunity out since it was given to them. But my argument is, yes, they are there, but they are there and they have tried to work upon them, but the effectiveness is still low. I'm not saying that they are not there. The different things are there, but their effectiveness is low, in a way that we see that, yes, that His Excellency, but not His Excellency, Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu was given an opportunity, yes, to take part of the elections. But when he went for the elections, we saw immediately after on the different media platforms, NBS and TV, we saw that immediately after he registered, he was arrested for no cause, for no big reason. They did not justify why they gave it to us. So that is where my argument is. Yes, the government is trying, it is trying from before, because in 2016, we see that in 2016, the money for someone to stand in a position was, before it was at 100,000. Now it was 200,000, but then it was shifted in 2016. It was shifted to 3 million. So imagine 200,000 to 3 million. Someone who is who has just come out, for instance, from university, someone who is still working out their future, and you ask them for 3 million, and yet they want to stand out to show that yet they want to stand out and show and showcase and fight for what is there, or like lead people through on how they're going to do something better. But as I said, in 2020 and 2021, we see that the government has improved on this, whereby it has given them the opportunity, yes, but the opportunity is still at a low level. The opportunity, the effectiveness, they are putting the different opportunities, they are putting the different things that the youth can get involved in, but the effectiveness is low. Now, another example I can give is of the different emyogas, as everyone has been saying. Yes, the emyogas are there, and they have given the youth an opportunity to go in and like to try out, and especially those who these myogas have been given in different perspectives, whereby they look at how they can improve people of saloons, how they can improve people of borders, people of tax, to make more. But now, an example of that was in November, beginning of November. So that is where I'm showing you that it is improving, yes, but the effectiveness. They said in 2021 at the beginning, that is when they were going to release the loans and the money for these saloons to be improved. But we have not seen the money till now, and they are still promising that they will still do the other thing. So as I conclude, my argument is, yes, they are there, and we are grateful that these different organizations that put for us are there, but they need to be improved more. The effectiveness is little according to how we expect it to be. They are there, the youth are trying to embrace it, but few are gaining from it. That is what I can say.
Wow. Thank you very much, Rachel. That was very enthusiastic from you. And I must say thank you. Comrade Arthur, let me bring this to you. Our friend Rachel seems to suggest that maybe it is time that we have a constitutional review around electoral reforms. That, for example, it is too high to ask a young person who aspires to be a member of parliament to pay 3 million Uganda shillings. This person has probably just finished school, they are not working, but they have the desire and zeal to offer themselves to serve this country. And for someone who wants to be president, and the constitution requires them to pay 20 million Uganda shillings. Rachel is saying that maybe that is slightly too high. Do you think there is need for us to have constitutional reforms in terms of electoral democracy, whereby maybe we can start by saying, can we lower the application? Excuse me. Can we lower the application forms, application form fee from 3 million to something more affordable by all social classes in society? the young inclusive. Arthur, on to you. Speak about the need for constitutional and electoral reforms in terms of influencing our electoral democracy.
In regards to that, whether we need constitutional reforms in Uganda, I do find that we may not need constitutional reforms to adopt various reforms that will encompass most people. Why? Because sometimes it is put up for a good reason, and it's not that we are trying to eliminate people from participating in politics, but we try to eliminate various irregularities from the political theater. We do find that in regards to what is happening here in Uganda, we do find that the phase we are in right now is a learning experience and an improvement phase, whereby we are trying to improve from our history, whereby it was characterized by tyranny. We see that from our history, most people were denied to engage into politics, and whereby elections were really minimal. And by that time, we find that by that time during our history, we find that most youth were curtailed to participate in politics. However, right now, as I said earlier, that the constitutional amendment of Article 102 that tries to remove the age limit tries to provide a fair ground for every youth. Now, in regards to the question to lower the prices or the money paid there for one to engage into politics, let me say 3 million or 20 million for one going for president, I do find it is put there for a good reason, because we don't need very many candidates. We need people who are potential candidates. We do find that in civilized countries like America and Britain, people who participate in politics are one who have had this a good background of policy making, and whereby these people have engaged in various leadership positions, and most of them, by the time they try to fill up these offices, they are really fit, and whereby these people tend to engage into politics, they really have the capacity to pay this money. And the reason as to why we should not lower the money is because when we intend to lower the money for one who would wish to engage into um, a political election where one wants to become president, we see that we shall have very many people who are aimless. So we see that where one pays this 20 million, he's really sure and really he has the love for his country, and he's really determined, and he feels that he is really ready to take up the country. And if at all you try to remove these prices or we try to lower them down, we shall have people who might be unfit to be presidents. Oh yes, because if at all we have people who are unfit to become presidents in our nation, we are likely to face a danger. We see that we have learned this from history. We see that people who have not been prepared well enough for the political office, they have caused very many problems to their countries. Now I refer you to France, whereby we had King Louis the 16th. He was not prepared for 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 the political theater, and we see that what happened later is a revolution, and this is really dangerous because in the current century we find that um, people ought to be ready, and one who can afford that money, we believe that by the time they can afford that money, they feel that they are determined and they are well prepared in sense of a political moral background. And I do find that we don't really need to lower the money for those who would wish to engage in politics, to engage into elections. Thank you.
Rachel, I can see your hand is up, but I want to come to you in a second or two. Let me go to Sylvia. Sylvia, before you joined us, I understand your network was a little bit shaky. Before you came in, Comrade Rachel seemed to suggest that there is need for us to maybe look at electoral reforms, that asking a young person who has just finished university to pay 3 million for them to contest to be a member of parliament, or for them to pay 20 million is rather too high, and therefore maybe there is need for us to review some of these electoral regulations. But you've just heard what Arthur said. Arthur says that no, if someone cannot pay this money, then they are not prepared. They are not ready. They are not prepared to sacrifice. They are not ready to commit themselves to the leadership. Where do you fall? Do you want to ally with Rachel, or you think Arthur makes a valid argument to say that go ahead and pay the money? There is no need for electoral reforms. That money is a sign of your commitment. It's a sign of your readiness to hold that office. Over to you, Sylvia.
I think I'm going to agree with Arthur that the money that is paid is okay. Because for someone to go on for something as member of parliament, they must have climbed the political ladder. Starting from LC1, you don't go straight from university without being a leader, a political leader anywhere, and you embark on being an MP. I believe that political ladder you climb helps you get the money that is required, helps you get connections that might help you contribute that money. So I think let the money be there as long as other factors are kept constant.
Yes, Comrade Rachel, I saw your hand was up. Let me just give you a chance because our colleagues seem to be saying the same thing. Let me just give you a chance to make your final argument. Maybe you can persuade them to agree with you. So over to you, Rachel. Rachel, please unmute your microphone.
Comes and he wants to be an MP. He came in 2016 and he wanted to, yes, become an MP. So Katolo Wama is a person who he said it himself in the 2021 elections as he was coming, as he wanted people to choose him again. He says, last time you voted for me, I came, I ate the money. So this time, come and put me in power, I will work. So you realize even if what my comrades are saying, someone who is ready to pay in that money, is ready to have the leadership skill, is ready to, go in and like fight for the country and do it, which I'm saying that it is not the case. The case is someone might not be able to raise that particular amount of money, but someone can be capable of coming out and doing leadership skills, just like the way it happened in the recent elections, the elections of 2021. These elections, young aspiring politicians, including some that had no financial backing, joined the race to make a vision that they can make a Uganda better. That is what I'm showing you. Yes, I'm not saying that this money, that it is, an example I gave you was of 2016. In 2016, people, this is really unrealistic. In 2016, the money was 200,000, and from 200,000, they went to 3 million. I've shown you a case in point where a person like Katodu Mwama can, yes, afford the 3 millions, but what is he bringing to us on ground? Their argument is, this person can come in and this particular person can come in and they are ready to, the fact that they are ready to get the money and the fact that they can pay that money to get into the race, they can do it. But that is not how it should be done. How it should be done is how it should be done. We have a process of the electoral commission. The electoral commission has the ability to assess those different people. This is how I can argue it out. Let these people, let the money be realistic, not a money that is going to make a person who will be able to come out and lead, but they cannot afford it. So my is, the money should not be yes little, but it should be realistic. How can you come from 200,000 to 3 million? Is that really being realistic? And are you looking at the people that the people that are looking forward to that thing. So that as they register, as they come in for those particular positions, MPs and whatever local council, the thing is, it is the job of the Electoral Commission to assess them. The money is not an issue. The issue is, has the Electoral Commission assessed them? Is this particular person okay according? That is why we see the Electoral Commission asking for their background papers, their high school, where they studied from, to really see if they are putting real leaders in place, not the money. So that is what I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Rachel. That was, I must say, very passionate. Arthur and Sylvia, I see your hands are up, but Arthur's hand was up first. So Arthur, I'll give you a minute, and then Sylvia, you'll come after Arthur. Yes, Arthur, on to you.
Yes, as I had said earlier, that people who would wish to get these political positions cannot fail to get that money. Of recent, we had the 2021 elections, whereby Katumba, who never had money, physically decided, because he had a vision, he decided to look for other venues of how he could get money. At one time, we shared with him a story, and he told us how he was able to get this money. And he told us that since he had a vision, he could not fail. And people who saw a vision in him that he could become a credible leader, even though he never had this money, they were able to contribute towards towards the 20 million. And we see that Katumba himself, he admits that he could not afford to have this money as a person, but he was helped by people who saw a vision in him. And actually, this money was not a loan, but they just donated this money to him. And we see that very many people were willing, and they even gave him signatures, because they said he needed more than 1,000 signatures to stand up for the post of president. And since he had a vision, he was able to get this money, which shows that he was able to sacrifice this money to do he was willing to do a good cause for the country. Thank you. So therefore, I do find that what my colleague is suggesting is really won't really work for our country, because if at all we remove such prerequisites, this country will face a danger whereby everyone will choose to go and try out. Yet we do not people who have come here to try out. We need serious people who are ready to engage into politics. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Arthur. Sylvia, your hand was up. I will give you the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
All this argument comes back to what I say, yeah, that in a country that is infested with unemployment, in a country where youth do not have opportunities, in a country where most youth are leaving the country to go abroad to work as slaves, that means there is something bigger than this here discussing. In countries where youth are given proper opportunities, any youth wouldn't find any problem paying the fees now join politics because of that. We don't know whether they join. In my country, when there's no opportunities anywhere, there's no capital for them to do business, they are all running politics with or without money. But we all know if the economy was good for Lamet, that is very little money for the youth. And I know that's just theory.
Okay, Sylvia, thank you very much. I guess that was a very good submission, although your network was jumping. Now, we are moving towards the end of this conversation, and I have to pick your mind on one thing. We all know that the economy is bound to fully reopen. I think later on this month, we shall be fully reopened. There'll be no curfew and things like that. We also know that early this week on Monday, students went back to school. I am going to give a chance to each and every one of you to speak about, one, the economic status of our country, because we know that with the full reopening of the economy, many of our young people who have been benefiting from the night economy, who have been working on the Rolex stands that work transnight, who have been working at the bouncers in these bars and clubs, who have been working as the waiters and waitresses in these bars and clubs, are finally going to go back to business. Is there an array of hope for those young people? Because I'll tell you that there was a World Bank report that showed that so many small, medium enterprises were closed due to the devastating effects of COVID-19. Many of them couldn't repay their loans and things like that. Do you think there is an array of hope regarding the economy now that we are moving towards full reopening? And what does that leave for our young people? And if you can make a comment about the digital economy, because it was Comrade Sylvia who mentioned earlier on that many young people benefit from the digital economy. We market our products on Facebook, Twitter, and things like that. But we know that there are two facts. One is that Facebook still remains closed up to now. Two is that the tax on data is still quite high, 12%. So a comment from you all about two things. One, the digital economy, but the general economic outlook for young people. And then two, the reopening of schools. So you'll have 3 minutes each, beginning from you, Ronald. Then I'll come to Rachel, then Arthur, then finally Sylvia. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, moderator. I will start with the question of the digital economy. How is the digital economy working? And I want to tell you that the digital economy is by the on a takeoff, and people are finding it easy to use the digital economy now, like people marketing their products on Twitter, then people marketing having their small WhatsApp groups where they can get to market their products. People are finding it more cheap, like it was in the days when they would have to take their products via radio and stuff. So the digital economy is much more conversant, and we can see that people who used to, let's say, hold meetings have physical meetings, now they can take their meetings via Zoom or Twitter Spaces or anything. So the digital economy is trying to bridge the gap that was brought in by COVID, and people are finding it more conversant to use the digital economy. And I presume that even if after the economy has fully reopened, people are going to still link back to the digital economy, where they are going to be marketing their products or commodities via the established social media handles such as Twitter, Instagram. So then the other thing is that the idea of if there is hope for the youth in that the economy is going to reopen, and I truly am positive enough that the youth are going to get back to their jobs now. People, like you said, bouncers who used to operate in bars, bar operators, these people are going to open back and they are going to resume business. And it is that they are going to pick up from where they started, though their businesses have faced a blow because of COVID-19, but that was beyond our making. But really, the economy is going to come back and it's going to be stable. And one thing that I can assure you, and one thing that I can really see, is that these taxes that have been imposed, remember, since businesses have been closed, these taxes were imposed so that they can bridge that gap that was lacking in our economy. Remember, businesses like bars, when they were closed, that there was that gap. So, and a country like Uganda, we cannot run without taxes. So we need salaries of public officers, people that are working in the in the public sector. So, but one thing I know is that when the economy reopens, those taxes that have been imposed are going to be reduced in a way that, first of all, the bridges that have been in the economy are going to be faced off. So I'm positive enough that the economy is going to be on track, and the youth or other people that had lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 are going to get back on track. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Ronald. Let me move to you, Rachel. Those 3 questions: the digital economy, the general economic outlook, and the reopening of schools. Yes, Rachel, unmute your microphone and please respond. Okay, Arthur, let me come to you as she prepares herself. Arthur, let me come. Prepares herself. Arthur, let me come.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Hello?
Okay, Rachel, go ahead. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my gadget has an issue when it comes to unmuting. So I have to talk about the digital economy, then the general economy, and then the reopening of schools. Now, I'm going to start with the digital economy. Now, the digital economy has not been affected a lot. That is what I can say. Because when COVID came in, you realize that many people switched to using Zoom, Google, different Twitter, and like different ways of meeting. And for it, the digital economy has not been affected a lot. Though it has had some little glitch there, some little disturbance because the data has been high, but then different people had no other solution. People had no solution other than now, like an example, a point in case I can give you is of Uganda Matters University. When they locked Uganda Matters, after a month, Uganda Matters University picked on and it continued studying. So different people from different areas had no choice but to go for the digital, the different digital platforms. We see and how different shops picked that up, like people who sell bridals, like Maria's bridals, to like go to those Instagram pages where they would still capture people's mind, where people would still pick and they would drop a number there. So for their business to has not been affected. The only part where it has been having issues was the high rate of data, but it wasn't really affected because people had no solution. People had to people had to log in. Like a student like me, I had other solution, but to look for ways of getting that data and target so that I would study because my fellow colleagues were leaving me behind. Then for the general economy, now the general economy, generally it has been a backseat. 2 years are a big thing of most of, not all things, but like most things. We see that the different businesses, the boxers, the bars, and everything. So these people will come and these people will still gain. They're going to resume, yes, but they lost a lot. Places like bars are places that were locked with drinks inside, are places that, because like they invest in a business to get money for themselves, the people who own this thing. So you realize that their investments that they had put, those are the drinks, some of the drinks got expired and all that. So no one was like, so they have to input, yet they got still loans to we see like different people got loans to facilitate themselves because they had nothing to do. So the general economy is going to be hard to yes, it will, but it will take now that have seen 15,000. What does that mean? Yes, it has gone back to the normal, but these people that have seen, there is a time when they rested. There is a time when they needed food at home and they had no solution to what? Only to go for those different loans and different to actually eat or get food on their table. So what I can say for the general economy, it is going to take those very years or those very months that we have lost to gain that economy back. Now about the going back to schools. Now the going back to schools, the economy is also as I've been saying before. Like now you realize a child is supposed to be in P3. When they locked down, a child was in P1. Now the person that the child is supposed to be in P3. Now this child does not have a uniform. The shoes are all not fitting. So parents now bought new things. I read an article in New Vision on Monday. And this article was showing how it's to the world, nothing to do. They still have to pay for for their kids to get better education. Some kids are still not going to go back to school. And that the economy, they are still that takes me back to the general economy. These are people that work and their money has been put back to normal. They're taxing men, that have kids, and money has been put back to normal. They still have a loan to pay for, but they still also have a loan to they still have to their child. So you realize that yes, the economy is not really going to go back to normal as we are saying, because people are in debts and debts that are going to take them time to repay. That is what I have. That is what I can actually say.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Rachel. Arthur, I come to you, but try to use 3 minutes, please. Try to use 3 minutes, please.
Yes, in regards to the question, whether the digital economy, okay. Yes, hello.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm getting feedback this time. Yes, what I'm saying is that the digital economy has been a lesson and a progressive process of institutions, businesses, banks, and the youth, whereby most of them have been able to engage in different businesses. We do find that the youth, most of them have been empowered during this time of COVID-19 because they have engaged themselves in the digital economy, whereby they have tried to start up businesses. We know that the digital economy is one that is cheap, whereby one just takes photographs of what they are, all the success they are providing, and they are able to get customers that subscribe to what they want. So basing on that, I do think that the digital economy has been really a good progressive has been a good progressive lesson to learn. Then in regards to the general economy, I do find that when the general economy opens up, we shall be able to prosper very well, because there are plans that government had put up. For example, the government had tried to had just opened various agreements with oil companies, and we see that these had been curtailed due to COVID-19, and some activities had been limited. So now, since now the economy is going to be open, these people will be able to conduct their business very well. And then the other thing is that the general economy is going to continue to progress, whereby people shall continue to open up businesses, and government will try to put up various utilities that will help. For example, the power generation, which has increased. We see that in 2016, 925 megawatts were produced, but now we have an improvement up to 1,254 megawatts currently that are ready to serve those who are willing to open up businesses when the economy opens up. Then the other thing is that when the general economy opens up, various people will go back to their jobs. For example, teachers will go back and start teaching. Therefore, they will be able to try to pay the loans that they had got during the COVID-19. And then the other thing is that we do believe that opening up of schools, yes, many people are behind, whereby children had stayed back in their classes, but we do find that with time they will be able to catch up, though they backslid a little bit. So definitely, I do think that the reopening of the economy is really going to bring up good progressive programs in the coming year. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's have Sylvia. Sylvia, are you there? Sylvia, if you're there, please join us and use the next 3 minutes.
Yes, please. About the can you hear me?
Yes, Sylvia, just go ahead. We can hear you.
About the digital economy, we've seen that. Can you hear me, please? I think I'm breaking.
Sylvia, just go ahead and speak. We can hear you. Okay.
About the digital economy, we've seen that when the economy finally opens, there is going to be a lot of skills mismatch, whereby people do not have the necessary skills for their different kind of activities. We are going to see the losing out on some skills that digital marketing, digital economy are the ones. So how the youth to embrace the digital economy, yet they are shutting down these different sites for marketing? So that would be a problem, and we need digital economy spiked up. It spiked up because the electricity bills were high for them, the rent was high for them, so they were left with no option but to close down their shops and opt for online marketing. And when they came out and rioted about how the rents were high, nothing was done. They instead just beat them up. So we can't say we are embracing the digital economy, yet these people are getting nothing like help from the government. Then about the general economy, we are seeing some bosses, some employers that fear to employ people like us that have studied in the COVID era. We are being termed as the COVID students, COVID people that have studied almost a half of their course during COVID online. So they don't expect us to be knowing much as them that studied purely physical. Now the problem arises from there. We've seen medical interns being arrested. So when the economy finally opens, I think it's about to open by the end of this month, when the economy finally opens, we are going to face a problem. You're going to face a problem getting the jobs. We have seen some teachers stopping to teach. Some teachers are not going back to teach. Why? Because as teachers, they weren't helped in any way. We've seen the musicians going to Gulu being given money, over 200 million each, but we've seen the teachers not even getting 100,000. And they're the same teachers that are expected to go back to school to teach these students when the schools are finally opened. We are also seeing a change in the curriculum. It is unfortunate, or fortunately, probably, the curriculum is going to put in some things that are good for the students. But how many schools are ready to embrace the curriculum? they may want to embrace the curriculum, but they have the necessary requirements. And the unfortunate bit about it is that it is the private schools that pay high money that will be able to accommodate this curriculum. But the UPE schools and the USE schools that we are praising, that the leaders are praising for putting on a good education system, are the ones that are not going to be able to embrace this kind of system because they're not given money to fund it. The tuition is hiked already. The school fees for different classes are hiked, especially private schools. And we've also seen we have two groups of senior ones. How are they going to study? And the ones that are even just promoted. So I think the education system is going to take some time to go back to its normal form. Yet we wouldn't want it to go back to its normal form, but we want it to be a bit good. It will take like 4 years to stabilize.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you very much. Our time is fast spent. Yes, Ronald, you're the last, right?
Yes.
Yes, please use 3 minutes. Our time is fast spent. Please use 3 minutes, Ronald. Our time is fast spent. Please use 3 minutes, Ronald. Okay.
Yeah, I had spoken earlier. Maybe what I had not highlighted much is the education sector, about the education sector. Yes, hello? I'm receiving feedback. Hello? My microphone. I'm receiving feedback. My microphone.
Okay. Ronald.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, just use 1 minute, please.
Yes, about the education sector, the reopening of schools. Yes, about the education. What students? The only challenge is that, like Sylvia highlighted it, is that there is bias. There is this bias about the students that were nurtured during the COVID period. In that students are being termed as the COVID students. But I don't see that as a challenge, in that since students are back to school, they're going to carry on from where they are now, back to doing internship programs, more like having people who are doing their degree programs, they're going to do their internships and they're going to acquire the necessary skills. So I don't see a challenge with that. So schools will be better with that, so that when they fully reopen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, finally, I'm going to request you to just give us your parting shots. Okay, Rachel, since your audio is already on, Rachel, let us begin with you. Just give us your parting shots, basically saying goodbye. And then I'll go to the next person.
Okay.
And then I'll go to the next person.
Okay. So my parting shots are, according to the topic that we have today, the topic was who is the future of every nation belongs to the youth, and what does Uganda have in store for politically, economically, and socially? So my parting shots are, according to this topic, is telling us that the future is on the youth. But then me, I'm saying yes, the youth will be considered, but even other generations should also be put in consideration. The other generation, that is the generation of the elderly, and then the generation of the children, they should also be put in. They should also be put in consideration. Not only the youth. The youth are not the only people that are going to determine the future of this generation, for all generations of people to be, for all the generations of people. But then even other generations, as I've said, should also be put in. Other stakeholders, the children and the elderly.
Yes, Rachel, thank you. Rachel, thank you very much. Please
So
help us.
that is generally.
Yes, Rachel, just mute. Please help us mute your microphone. Thank you. Yes, Rachel, just mute your microphone. Okay, perfect. Ronald, let me come to you. Your parting shots. If you can use 30 seconds, it would be very good.
Yes, thank you. In regards to the theme that we had today, the future of every nation belongs to the youth. Yes, I agree with this theme in that here, yes, in Uganda, going to use the concept of Uganda in that the youth are the majority. By now, we assume that we are 80%, youth are 80%. And what Uganda has in store for them politically is that, first of all, the ground is leveled. And economically, programs are available to enable the youth. Programs are available for the youth to fulfill their dreams and perspective on what they intend to achieve. And then socially, for instance, education, that is all set. We have UPE, we have USE. So socially and in education, everything is set. So the future is now set here in Uganda, and we intend to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. 30 seconds, please.
As I earlier said, that Uganda has the best policies almost in Africa. The only lack implementation. If they were implemented, then Uganda would be so high. Then the future of Uganda would be so bright. But because they are not implemented, our future is in jeopardy. And I call upon all youths to open their eyes widely, because the future is in our hands. Policies that they lack implementation. If they are implemented, Uganda would be among the first or second world countries. But look, with all the youth policies we have, we are in third world. Why? Because they are not implemented. So the youth should wake up. The youth should wake up to squeeze all these people in.
Okay. Sylvia, thank you. Thank you very much. That was quite elaborate. Arthur, please, you have 30 seconds to make just final remarks.
Yes, the spirit of this debate was, what does Uganda have in store politically, economically, socially for posterity? What I've come here to say is that what the current government has done, yes, it has not been well effective, but this should serve as a lesson to the future generations to come, that various policies that have been put up by government that have failed and others that have managed to work well, and also the institutions and the laws that have been put up to help the youth should be implemented by the future generations to come. And therefore, the future generation should learn from the lessons, should learn from the near future. Therefore, I do find that what the government has done or what Uganda has in store is really there to serve as a lesson to the coming generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our panelists. I must say you've been an amazing panel. Comrade Arthur, Comrade Ronald, Comrade Sylvia, and Comrade Rachel from the Uganda Matters University in Kozi. You've been an amazing panel. And thank you very much for joining us this particular day for this conversation. I must say it has been an amazing afternoon. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being friends of the Civic Space TV. Thank you for loving the inter-university debate. The next series of this will come to you next week, same time, same place. From me to you, we say thank you and enjoy the rest of your week. Please feel free to comment on the comment section. Feel free to subscribe to this channel and get our weekly dose of sense. From me to you, bye-bye. Until next week, see you.